Okay, we're here just beyond the earthworks at Colts Hill, and we're looking at this cropping of rocks in front of us. And there's a famous photograph that is taken of these rocks in 1867 by Charles Tyson, and it was entitled "The Desecration of the Battlefield." This rock that's in front of us here on the ground had a advertisement for Rogers liver pills. And then the large rock in the distance here behind this tree, right here, had an advertisement on it that said Hoofland's German Bitters. And of course, companies that wanted to capitalize on what happened at Gettysburg would come here and put advertisements on the rocks, just as there was a lot of desecration and vandalism and etchings and Devil's Den there was throughout the battlefield. Now, unfortunately, the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association, which was a precursor to the Gettysburg National Military Park, did not own the land that we stand on in 1866. So nothing could be done to prevent businesses from coming and desecrating the battlefield when it wasn't protected land. So companies like Hoofland's German Bitters and Rogers Liver Pills would come and desecrate boulders that were still in private hands. Tyson, taking the photograph, was obviously concerned about this, and his photographs led just 2 years later in some way of allowing people to raise funds, which eventually allowed the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association to acquire not only this site but other areas of the what is today the Gettysburg National Military Park. However, this site is semi-famous because it was once the scene of some desecration and advertising here just over the earthworks in Culp's Hill. It's hidden really nicely back in the wooded area. The best way to find it is to go to the 150th New York Monument. Look to the right side and you'll see a footpath. And if you follow that footpath back about 100 yards, you'll see this cropping of boulders. That footpath is the path that comes right there in the distance. If you were to follow this back toward the camera, it would take you back out to the 150th. If you come over here, you make this turn, you're going to go through this set of boulders here, and you're going to see this one on the ground here where I have my walking stick, and then right here you'll see the set of boulders. And again, the way you go about this is when you're at the 150th New York, look to the right. You'll see a small walking path, and as you follow that walking path, I'm going to take you back out here. Right there is the edge of the road. You come up, drive up through Culp's Hill. When you see this 150th New York monument, to the right is this walking path. And on the right-hand side, by the way, this hump in the ground is actually the historic earthworks that Union troops, it's the remnants of those earthworks that Union troops built on July 1st and 2nd, 1863. You follow the path, you'll come to a sunny spot here, and it'll bend up, and you'll see a bunch of boulders. And then you'll see the boulders with the that had the advertisements on your right-hand side. You'll want to crawl through these rocks, and the boulder that had the Rogers liver pills is right here. You'll want to come to this side of it, and the angle that the photograph, and I'll put that photograph up later, was taken is right here. So C.J. Tyson stood here in 1866, seeing this advertisement, was concerned about it, took a photograph which led to funds being raised to acquire the land that was privately owned. And of course, the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association, once acquiring that land, removed the graffiti and the advertisements later becoming the Gettysburg National Military Park, acquiring more land to protect the grounds that the battle was fought on. This has been Desecration on the Battlefield on Gettysburg. I am here in beautiful Gettysburg on West High Street, and I'm going to use this address for a point of reference, 124 West High Street. It's the Kyrine Vergama Medical Doctor Gettysburg Lung Center. And today we're going to do a video on a secret of Gettysburg that not many people are aware of, and that is this sidewalk right here. This short sidewalk that goes between 124 and 136 West High Street is a legal road in Gettysburg called the Frederick Douglass Walk. And the Frederick Douglass Walk is here specifically because the building that's on the corner up here at the very end once stood an agricultural hall where it was a town meeting house. And on January the 25th, 1869, the great activist Frederick Douglass visited the town of Gettysburg, came in on the train station and made his way over into this area and gave a speech about the ending of slavery and the Civil War and what he had hoped that would happen in America now that the Civil War was over in the civil rights movement. And this speech was attended by both white and African American and all different races and genders, and it was received with a standing ovation. And Frederick Douglass, of course, was a very important Civil War figure, where he participated in the Civil War without actually becoming a soldier. And the borough of Gettysburg, recognizing that and recognizing that he was right here in this corner, actually instituted this sidewalk here as Frederick Douglass Walk. Many people that come to Gettysburg never get into this area and never get a chance to walk it, and I think it's important, So we're going to just take a stroll down here. We're going to take a walk of Frederick Douglass Walk. And we hope you enjoyed this video here on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook. This is going to be a part of our in town and the black history of the borough of Gettysburg. I did point out in an earlier video that the area that we're in here is even today the most of the population is minority population, and they have a very beautiful area to themselves here. There's an African American historic cemetery just behind these houses over here called the Lincoln Cemetery, which was a cemetery for black soldiers and black citizens of Gettysburg that was dedicated not too long after the Civil War. So again, this has been the secret of Gettysburg, the Frederick Douglass Walk, a legal incorporated road in Gettysburg, even though it's a sidewalk, in an area where the great activist Frederick Douglass arrived and came into town on January 25th, 1869, and gave a speech just behind these houses over here on the corner of West High and Franklin Street, where he gave a speech on civil rights to a standing ovation. Thank you for watching the video. Gettysburg. Okay, we are standing here at the corner of South Franklin and West High Street. In front of us is Little Deb's High Street Brews, which is a liquor store. And this corner is kind of a special area. This is a video on the black history of the town of Gettysburg. On the site, from 1834 to 1932, sat the Franklin Street Colored School, which was a building that was built for the sole purpose of educating colored children throughout the borough of Gettysburg in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania mandated public education in 1834. And on September 19th of that same year, citizens of Gettysburg met and they chose 6 board members to serve as directors. The head director being the civil rights activist and legislator Thaddeus Stevens. And Thaddeus Stevens actually had a home over in this direction on Route 30. Now, it is believed that his position as a director influenced the decision to establish a school of instruction exclusively for colored people in the borough of Gettysburg. And from the years 1834 to 1884, the school was held, before this building was built, 4 months a year in rooms in the colored community in AME Church, AME Zion Church, in which Lloyd F.A. Watts taught for 16 years before they built the building here on this corner. And 1884, Sally Stewart was chosen to be the first teacher in the school that was built on this site in front of us. Now, throughout the years, a number of female teachers, black and white, taught from 1900 to 1924. And then, of course, in 1932, the school that was located on the site closed and later was torn down for both 2 reasons. Economic reasons was one, and 2, by that time, schools began to integrate where colored and white children were being educated in the same room. I think this is a very significant video, one, because it shows back in 1834 to Commonwealth, Pennsylvania, making a stand that colored people were important and that they needed to be educated. It's neat that this school was built 20 years after the battle on the very site where Confederate forces actually came and took over the town of Gettysburg. So this is actually a part of the battlefield. And you know, even to this day, very much this is the section of town which is the black community of Gettysburg. I mean, you have the AME churches over in this direction over here, and there's an African American church just down the street here. A lot of African American and minority people live on West Middle Street and High Street and South Washington Street in town. And this very corner over here across the street is an important corner as well, because on that site, just a few years after the battle, 1867, 1869, sat the Agricultural Center of Gettysburg, where it was a public meeting place. And in the building there, on January the 25th, 1869, came to town and visited the town and gave a speech, Frederick Douglass. And Frederick Douglass was a very important figure during the American Civil War, during the Battle of Gettysburg, and then after the Battle of Gettysburg throughout the Civil War, leading the charge for civil rights for African Americans. And he came into this town a few years after the battle and gave a speech to a standing ovation in a building that once sat on that very corner across the street there. So this has been the site of the Franklin Street Colored School, which was built here from 1884 to 1932. After, from 1834 to 1884, schools were being taught in different churches throughout this area of town. And the importance of the area around here to the African American community. I hope you enjoyed this video, and keep on watching our videos on Gettysburg
Okay, I am
Battlefield
standing here
Facebook.
in Zieglers Grove in front of the 126th New York Infantry Monument, and today's video is going to be Secrets of the Battlefield. And what we're going to talk about is a marker that's on the ground near this monument. Now, when many people come to this area, or have in the past, and of course today there is no more Cyclorama Center, which used to sit right here, but in the past it was one of the main parts of the Visitor Center complex. And of course, during the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863, this was Zieglers Grove. There was a grove of trees here, which they're going to replant again. In the year 1893, the chief engineer, Colonel E.B. Cope, came to Gettysburg, and his job was to establish a meridian line for surveying the Gettysburg battlefield, which at that time was under the Gettysburg Memorial Battlefield Association and not the National Park Service. He was to establish a meridian line for surveying the battlefield, so that maps could be created where they could show where different regiments fought. And this little marker here that sits just near the monument right here is one of the original meridian markers that were put here by Colonel E.B. Hope. It was also E.B. Hope 2 years later that would be the designer of 5 metal observation towers that once sat on the Gettysburg battlefield, 3 which still exist today. And that would be the Oak Ridge, the Longstreet, and the Culps Hill Tower, which we all did videos on. There were 2 more towers. One was on East Cemetery Hill, and the other one was on Big Round Top, which we also did a Secret to the Battlefield video tour of Little Round Top and showed you where that tower once stood. So this is the Cope Meridian marker here next to the 126th New York Infantry Monument on Secrets of the Battlefield on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook.